It was the first time that I marked it on a calendar, and I was waiting for that day when the album would come out. And I remember getting out of school and immediately going over to the record store and grabbing the cassette tape, and then rushing home, throwing it in the tape player, pulling out the liner notes with the lyrics on it, and sitting there and listening over and over to this record, reading all of the lyrics and memorizing them as soon as I can. And it's something that I have done with every single record since then. Now, times change. I think when Sounds of the Universe came out, the first time I had a chance to listen to it was actually in the car. I didn't get a chance to sit down. And because I'm such a fanatic, a lot of these albums have been released beforehand. I think from Exciter on, Exciter was leaked early. I remember getting most of Sounds of the Universe. It was leaked early. I don't think I got Playing the Angel early, and I don't think that I got Delta Machine early. No, I did get Delta Machine early. And I'll be honest, like most of us fans, if it gets out there and it gets leaked, I'm grabbing it. But I'm also going to go and spend money on the actual release. Depeche Mode is the only band left in my life that I will still go out and buy the physical release. As a matter of fact, Delta Machine is the last CD that I've purchased. Everything else has gone digital. And I will continue to do that for as long as Depeche Mode puts out physical releases, because I want it in my collection. Now, my story, like I know many of you, of Depeche Mode, it doesn't just go with the music. It goes to these live shows, right? I went to the Forum during the Music for the Masses tour before 101. That was at the the Great Western Forum in Los Angeles. But I actually did attend the 101 concert. I went in Pasadena. I remember that day. I still remember that day. I remember it raining during Blasphemous Rumors. I remember the way too much alcohol that I had beforehand, and yet, sobering up before the show started. I hope my father's not listening, because I was really young at the time. But I remember, just the merchandise booths and all of it, and being there with friends, and I remember everything about that concert. And it's one of those things that I wear as a badge of honor, being such a essentially lifelong Depeche Mode fan, having gone to arguably the most noted concert of 101. Again, it's just one of those things that I wear. I wear it as a badge of honor. I'm so happy that I was able to experience that, and then go back and watch the movie. As a matter of fact, in honor of the new releases coming out, I have I have all the concert releases, obviously, but I've pulled out 101 because I have not watched that in quite a long time, and I plan on watching that at some point this week. And of course, going to all the other shows. I've been to every single. Well, let me go here as we're talking about my music history. I've seen Depeche Mode live a total of 32 times. I saw the 2 concerts on the Music for the Masses tour, one of those being 101. I saw 6 shows on the World Violation tour, including the Dodger Stadium, 2 nights at Dodger Stadium. On the Devotional tour, I went to 7 shows, all 4 nights. They did a 4-night stint at the Great Western Forum in Los Angeles, and I remember going to all 4 of those shows on the Devotional tour. On the actually, let me back up here. No, I went on 7. I saw 7 of the Devotional tour shows, and then I saw 4 of the Devotional tour, but it was the Summer '94 Exotic Tour leg of that. So that would be Devotional 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 11 Devotional shows. I went to the Ultra release party where they played a handful of songs at the Shrine Exposition Hall back in May of '87 in Los Angeles. Had a chance to go backstage and actually meet the band at that show. In October of 1998, I flew to England to see the Singles tour in Manchester. I ended up seeing 3 shows on the Singles tour, and that was a bucket list item for me. Most of the bands of that time, back in the 90s, were coming out of Manchester: Jesus Jones, Happy Mondays, EMF, and to be able to go to Manchester to see Depeche Mode, to me, was the height of all heights. And it was a fantastic show. Although I will say this, just a quick side note. I was dating a girl at the time who was really short, and I thought I was being smart by getting floor seats for the show. But because she was so short, she couldn't see. So a majority of that singles tour show in Manchester, I spent kind of looking at her because I felt bad that she couldn't see most of the stage. So on the Exciter tour, I ended up seeing 6 shows on the Exciter tour. Most of those with my wife, Melinda. We were married in May of that year, and so we went to almost all of those shows together, including, and this is awesome, this is one of my favorite shows that I ever went to, seeing the warm-up show at the Roxy in Los Angeles. And for those that have ever been to the Roxy, you know how small that is. It was unbelievable to see Depeche Mode on stage just a few feet away from me, at the Roxy in a venue that small. That was just incredible. Now, since then, my ability to see the shows has calmed down quite a bit. Usually, I'm only able to get out to one, having a family. Now, I've got 2 boys, Logan and Kyle, 14 and 10. So, one show touring the Angel. That one was in Detroit, and then the last 2 shows that I had a chance to go to, Sounds of the Universe in Phoenix and the Delta Machine tour, also in Phoenix. So a total of 32 concerts that I've been to, and met the band essentially 3 times. So backstage on the Exciter tour, at the K-Rock Ultra Party, and I still have the framed picture of the group of us that won that contest. With the band. And then, at one point during the Devotional tour, when they were playing at Dodger Stadium, me and my buddies, we went out clubbing out in Los Angeles and ended up at Florentine Gardens. And at the time, when the band went out, they usually separated. And I could be getting this wrong, but my recollection was usually Martin would go and hang out with Alan, and then Fletch and Dave would go and hang out together. I think that's usually what happened. Either way, I remember meeting Martin Gore at Florentine Gardens in Los Angeles. I think it was the night before Dodger Stadium, and had a brief exchange. This is one of my brushes with fame stories. But I remember I was a nervous kid standing there next to my rock idol in Martin Gore. And there were 2 drinks sitting on the table that and I wasn't talking with him. He just happened to be next to me. He was chatting with somebody else. And he turns around, he looks at the table, and Martin looks confused. And I said, "What's wrong?" And he goes, "I don't know which drink is mine." And I go, "Well, it's that one." And he says, "Well, why?" I go, "Because it's the one that's fuller." And he said, "Oh, good point." And he grabbed that drink. So that's my brush with fame with with Martin Gore. Needless to say, my fandom with Depeche Mode runs incredibly deep. And I listen to them constantly. I have rotating playlists on all of my different, whether it's, my iPod that stays in the car, whether it's on my phone or my iPad. Depeche Mode, there's not a day that goes by that I don't listen to something, if not multiple things from Depeche Mode. Every single night before I go to bed, I put together a playlist, and usually attached to that playlist is Depeche Mode. As a matter of fact, not usually, it is. There is a Depeche Mode song that I listen to every night, at least a couple, that send me off to sleep. It's just a ritual that I have. Because I have to, I get up at 2:30 in the morning for my regular job, for my talk show job. And because of that, I go to bed at 7 o'clock at night. So we sleep, my wife and I sleep in 2 separate rooms just because it's convenient that way. Our marriage is great, but we just sleep in two different rooms. I have this essentially apartment. Like I call it an apartment. It's on the lower level of our home. I've got my office slash studio slash Star Wars collection slash Depeche Mode collection slash place where I sleep. And every night, it's just a ritual of mine. I put together a playlist of 4 songs, and usually at least 2 of them are Depeche Mode songs. So as I go through the different podcasts, I will, bring up other times and other moments in my life where Depeche Mode had an influence and impacted me. I've also been through 2 open heart surgeries. Again, I'm 44, and I won't get into the story now, but I've been through 2 open heart surgeries. And the first one was right around the time when Sounds of the Universe was coming out. I remember being in the hospital and listening to Wrong for the first time after having my wife record it when they played. They basically did a lip sync on a European variety show, and that was the first. And so the first time I heard Wrong was in the hospital recovering from my open heart surgery. There were bootlegs coming out and hearing demos of Hole to Feed. So in upcoming episodes, as we talk about the news of the day, read your emails, do reviews of new material and old material, I'll bring about some more of my history. And again, I just want to mention and encourage you, please drop me an email, talkshownerd@gmail.com. One of the things that I'd like to do with the podcast is when the opportunity presents itself, I'd like to bring other fans on with me. So it's not just me by myself talking Depeche Mode every single day. There isn't anybody currently in my life who is as big a Depeche Mode fan as I am. So at some point, if I find the right person that wants to join me on a weekly or bi-weekly discussion of Depeche Mode, we'll bring somebody on. But through emails, I hope to make contact with you and hope to invite some of you on to the podcast. And I've got a list of individuals within Depeche Mode, within the Depeche Mode fandom, that I hope to reach out to bring on the podcast, especially from depeche-mode.com, and having spent so many years as an infrequent poster and mostly lurker to the forum. There are several people on the forum there that I would love to bring on and just, pick their brains over the band. So again, talkshownerd@gmail.com, and you can follow along with me on Twitter at John, Jon, at John Justice. Let me take this moment to also give you a bit of my, how do I want to describe it? How I'm going to approach the podcast. And I'm going to take this from an angle of the controversy. And I say controversy, it's mostly just within the fandom among a few people. But I do want to sort of lay out my approach to the podcast. I don't intend in any way, shape, or form to get political on this podcast. My love of NASCAR and Dale Jr., it doesn't apply nearly as much, but my love of Star Wars and my love of Depeche Mode are on a different level than what I cover on a day-to-day basis hosting a news talk show. My intention is not to bring out, and I have no agenda to bring out any of my political views at all. I know Depeche Mode has gotten political in the past. Look, Everything Counts, one of their biggest songs. It's not exactly a love song, is it? And, there's social commentary to it. And Depeche Mode, certainly earlier in their career, Martin wrote, quite a few songs that had more social relevancy than they did, life, sex, drugs, this kind of thing. So when we have the opportunity, we'll certainly discuss that. And Revolution being a song that people have been using to respond to the news of the day, the inauguration of President Donald Trump, and social commentary of what's been happening in the world. I'm not adverse, and I'm not going to avoid talking about what potential political statements or quasi-political statements the band will be making, but I also am not going to turn this into, this is my opinion on this. I really want to talk about Depeche Mode and the music and how it touches us and how it relates to us. The band has always been, and Martin, the genius of Martin's songwriting is that it generally is open to interpretation. And Martin's even said this on several occasions, that he's not really one to go and say this song is about this or this. He's usually keen to say, well, I don't want to tell you what the song is about because it's open to interpretation. And that's probably the biggest understatement that I could possibly make on the podcast right now. That is the genius of Martin Gore's songwriting. To a lesser extent, Dave Gaun's. But that is the genius of Martin Gore's songwriting, is that he does keep it ambiguous. He does leave it open to interpretation. We played Home as the first song